that is Billy Carson's Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, a book that I've debunked a million times over. But I finally am able to get a physical copy. And before we even get started on the true Hermeticism of this evening, I think it would be prudent to give you guys a taste of what's going to be coming for my full video on the debunking of Billy Carson's Compendium of the Emerald Tablets. So before we get started with tonight's stream, I have 5 points that I've picked out of the Compendium of the Emerald Tablets that I want to debunk and share, since it's relevant to tonight's stream, since this is a Hermeticism stream. I picked out 5 points, and yeah, I think it's useful. So first, and I got my notes here. That's the other thing I'm looking at. I wrote my notes down on the 5 points that I want to talk about. So this is going to be in a larger video. This is just a little taste of a video that I'm planning, a full debunking, which will be available on my website, themysticalrebel.com. But yeah, so the Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, right? This is by Billy Carson, and supposedly in this text he is comparing and then elucidating on the Emerald Tablet, so the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus, and the supposed Emerald Tablets, plural, of Thoth, right? Which is written by a Dr. Maurice Doreal. Although Billy Carson says that his name is actually Michael in the text, which is interesting because you guys have heard me talk about Doreal before, as much as you've heard me talk about William Walker Atkinson, the actual author of the Kybalion, right? Well, I've talked about Doreal before, and I've mentioned that his name isn't Maurice Doreal, and he's not a doctor. His name is Claude Dodgin, or Doggin, or something along those lines. And you don't have to believe me. We can take a look at a scholarly article on Think to New Worlds here back in 2016. Claude Dodgin, aka Maurice Doreal, and it goes through his entire adult, I don't want to say history, but his adult happenings, right? When he first became an author, his 3 wives, his one wife exposing him, putting out that he actually didn't go to Egypt and that it was an astral projection trip and all this other nonsense. Yeah, so you can take or take a look at the work of the author here from an oblique angle on the Think to New Worlds journal. This is a fantastic article with references and sources all throughout. As you can see, there's clickable links in here that you can go to link out and get further research. So I don't know what Billy Carson's talking about when he says his name is Michael Doreal. No, his name is Claude Dodgin, or Dogdin, or something along those lines. I don't know how to pronounce that last name, but not Maurice or Michael Doreal. And he certainly did not go to Egypt after, surviving World War II or something like that, and then going to the pyramids of Giza and meditating and having a epiphany of Thoth, which is what Billy Carson says that he survived the war and just had this epiphany. And Thoth, led him first to the Mayan pyramids, where he gave him these secret words and all this other stuff, which doesn't make any sense. If Thoth is an Egyptian deity, I don't understand why he would give him Mayan, to go to a Mayan temple, but whatever. And then he sends him to Egypt, where he says that he serendipitously, under the cover of night, slips into the pyramid, aka he broke in, right? He broke in to the pyramid and meditated and had this vision of Thoth, where Thoth gave him, the truth of him being this Atlantean priest king. He was this Atlantean priest king that ruled Egypt for, what was it? 16,000 years, and that he was trained by his father, who was from Atlantis. And it says then that he ascended to Earth and created Egypt after leaving Atlantis. So that would mean that if he was the ruler of Egypt for 16,000 years and he left Atlantis to create Egypt, that would mean he was the first king of Egypt, right? That's the logical thought. If I create something and then I rule it for X amount of years, even if it's 1 year, I'm the first ruler, right? I'm the first king of that land, right? So he's saying, Billy Carson is saying that Maurice Doreal, actually Claude Dodgin, is saying that Thoth what created Egypt and was the first king of Egypt, and he ruled for 16,000 years. Now, I don't know if any of you actually watch Billy Carson or any of his videos on YouTube or whatever. I do, and I have to, so I can do this type of, I can't debunk anybody if I don't know what they say and know what they teach and things like that, which is why I have this nonsensical book, so I can actually debunk it. But if you do watch his content and you watch his live streams, one thing he likes to do as his version of providing evidence is he likes to use a website called Encyclopedia Britannica. Whenever there's a word that comes up and he wants to show the etymological significance or a place or a thing or whatever, he'll go to the Encyclopedia Britannica and he'll use this as his source. And he'll say, this is not according to Billy Carson. This is according to the experts over at Encyclopedia Britannica. Okay, so we're going to use we're going to use his own sources against him. We're going to use his own sources against him. Billy Carson says in his Compendium of the Emerald Tablets that Thoth was the first king of Egypt and ruled for 16,000 years. Well, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, I'll refresh it just in case you don't believe I'm there. Encyclopedia Britannica. Okay, this is ancient Egypt. Now, in here, it says ancient Egypt, civilization in northeastern Africa that dates from the 4th millennium BCE. Its many achievements, preserved in its art and monuments, hold a fascination that continues to grow as archaeological finds expose its secrets. This article focuses on Egypt from its prehistory through its unification under Menes, or Menes, how I don't know how to say it, aka Narmer, in the 3rd millennium BCE, sometimes used as a reference point for Egypt's origin and up through the Islamic conquest of the 7th century CE. Now, I don't pay for the rest of it, so I don't get the rest of it. But this right here says that Egypt was unified, which means Egypt became Egypt, because before it was unified Egypt, it was split, Upper Egypt, Middle Egypt, Lower Egypt. They were separate nations. They were not, it wasn't a unified thing. They were separate, right? Like Europe, right? They're all separate little nations, instead of like the United States, where those separate nations are states, and then we're all under one, constitutional democracy, or republic, excuse me. Egypt was not like that, right? It says that this article focuses on Egypt from its prehistory through its unification under Menzies. Now we can go even further. Right up here, it says, who was the first king to unify Upper and Lower Egypt? We open that and it says Menzies was the legendary first king of unified Egypt. Not Thoth, right? Not Hermes Trismegistus, or anything like that. It sounds like Billy Carson is not familiar with Egyptian theology, because it sounds like he's mixing Osiris's origin. Osiris started out as a god king type of a figure, a human who became a god type of a thing, and continues that in cycles. Not Thoth. He seems to be mixing that with Osiris. But perhaps I'm wrong. Let's continue with Billy Carson's own sources against him. Let's see what the Encyclopedia Britannica says about Thoth. Maybe it says that Thoth was a king or something along those lines. Luckily, this one I don't need to pay. It just gives me the full article. Down here, someone else. So Thoth is only this 2 paragraphs here. It says, Thoth, in Egyptian religion, a god of the moon, of reckoning, of learning, and of writing. He was held to be the inventor of writing, the creator of languages, the scribe, interpreter, and advisor of the gods, and the representative of the sun god Ra. His responsibility for writing was shared with the goddess Shesat. The cult of Thoth was centered in the town of Kumunu, or Hermopolis, modern Al-Asmunyin, in Upper Egypt. In the myth of Osiris, Thoth protected Isis during her pregnancy and healed the eye of her son Horus, which had been wounded by Osiris's adversary Seth. He weighed the hearts of the deceased at their judgment and reported the result to the presiding god Osiris and his fellow judges. Thoth's sacred animals were the ibis and the baboon. Millions of mummified bodies of those animals have been found in cemeteries near Hermopolis and Memphis. Thoth was usually represented in human form with an ibis head. The Greeks identified Thoth with their god Hermes and termed him Thoth the Thrice Great, or Hermes Trismegistus. Important philosophical works were attributed to Hermes Trismegistus. Now, you would think that if Thoth was the first king of Egypt in any capacity, unified or otherwise, because I know that might be an argument, if this ever gets back to Billy, hopefully it does. Hopefully someone can clip this and share it with him. He'll say, oh, well, I didn't mean unified Egypt. Okay, fine. Your Encyclopedia Britannica, if he was a king in any capacity, I think that would have been, especially the first king of anything, that would have been an important factor, an important piece of information to include here. It would have been just one more sentence. It would not have increased the size of the article or anything like that. It would have been one more sentence. Yet it's not here because he is not and was not the king, the first king of Egypt. He did not rule Egypt for 16,000 years. Going further, Billy Carson says that Maurice Doreal, which we know as who? Claude Dodgin, gives 3 different tabulations for the number of Emerald Tablets, right? So in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, right, this nonsensical book, Maurice Doreal, Claude Dodgin, in 3 separate parts, gives 3 different tabulations. In the first preface, he gives 10. In the second preface, he says that there's 12. And then finally, at the end of the text, he says, actually, there's 15. And that's just glossed over. Billy just mentions, he gives 3 separate numbers and then just moves on. There is no, why did the supposed author of this text, the one who had the information channeled from Thoth, why is this guy giving us, like, why is he contradicting himself 3 times? Right? He tells us it's 10, then he goes, never mind, it's 12, then never mind, it's 15. Thoth didn't give him the correct number the first time. He had to talk to Thoth 2 more times. Stop it. Stop it. Yet, Billy Carson just mentions it and moves right along. Glosses over it. Glosses right on over it. But I think that's important. Do you think if we were reading, I don't know, Jake Stratton Kent or Michael Chittatelli or Aaron Leach or Stephen Skinner or something like that, and we were reading one of their elucidations on, I don't know, the Black Dragon or something like that, and they go and they say, oh, well, there's 3 different versions of the Black Dragon. And then that's it. They just say there's 3 different versions. They don't mention, oh, this one over here, it, mentions this, but this one doesn't, and it's omitted over here. None of that. It's just a mention, and then they move on. You'd be like, well, wait a second. What about those other 2? I mean, if there's 3 versions, I obviously have one here. What about those other 2 versions? I'd like to know. Billy just glosses over that. That's a problem. That's a problem when the author of the text themselves contradicts themselves. But that's fine. 2 more, and then we'll be able to move into the actual topic of tonight. Billy Carson on page 13 speaks of the halls of Amenti, and he talks about this a lot in his live streams and videos and stuff like that. He talks about these halls of Amenti, and he talks about it as an actual place. But the halls of Amenti are not mentioned in any ancient text. He claims that Doreal was the first person in over 3,000 years to enter the halls of Amenti. This guy here was the first person in over 3,000 years to enter. Thoth closed off the halls until this gentleman came along. Not an order of initiates, not a great magician, not a great priest, not a king. This fraud, Claude Dodgin, aka Maurice Doreal, is the one that Thoth let in. Well, apparently he didn't let him in. According to Billy Carson's own words, he broke in. Now, he said it nicer than that. He did not use the words break in, but that's what he meant. He serendipitously entered under the cover of darkness. That's breaking in. Stop it. None of the ancient texts mention the halls of Amenti. Billy Carson mentions two texts in relation to the halls of Amenti. He mentions the Egyptian Book of the Dead and a book called the Book of the Master of the Hidden Places. We'll save that book, the Book of the Master of the Hidden Places, for number 5. But for the Book of the Dead, well, you guys know me. We can take a look at the Book of the Dead right now. Where is it? Where do I got it? 1 second. There it is. It was over on this side. Sorry. All right. Let me scroll to the top. All right, there. The Papyrus of Anai, the Egyptian Book of the Dead. This is the first text that Billy Carson mentions in reference to the halls of Amenti. So what we should do is we should probably do a Control F so the computer can search through the text to find Amenti. And let's see what we find. As you can see, I've already looked. And we have 19 mentions of Amenti. So surely Billy Carson was correct, right? Surely the halls of Amenti, there's 19 mentions of Amenti. Surely the halls are in here. I said, here it is. This is it. I've been wrong about Billy Carson all this time. I'm finally going to be shown up. Here it is. This is what's going to show me. No. So the first time we see Amenti is in a name. I have made the word of Osiris Khenti Amenti to be truth before his enemies. I have carried away in a boat all his enemies, blah, blah, blah. No halls, not a physical place, it's someone's name. Osiris's name, to be exact. Let's go on to number 2. Another name. He saith, homage to thee, Khenti Amenti, Un Nefer, who dwellest in Abtu. I come to thee, my heart hold the truth, blah, blah, blah. Another name, not a place. Another name. The chapter of entering into the hall of Ma'ati to praise Osiris Khenti Amenti. So we have a hall of Ma'ati. So you can praise Osiris Khenti Amenti, but not a hall of Amenti. But let's keep going. What's this one? This one is Amenti is in this, but it's a little different. It's Hail Amenti. Another name, hail to whoever Amenti is, who cometh forth from the Kebit chamber. I have not debauched the wife of any man. I'm not sleeping with no hoes. Hail Ma'anuf, who come from Permenu. Amenti, not the halls of Amenti. Let's go to number 5. Hail Kurti, who cometh forth from Amenti. Okay. Well, this sounds like a place. This sounds like a place, right? They come forth from Amenti. Unfortunately not. If we continue reading, we find out that it's referencing Osiris again. I have not uttered evil words. Hail, Hech Abhu, who cometh forth from Ta'ashi. I have attacked no man. Scroll down a little bit here. I've attacked no man. I've attacked no man. Hail, Unumsif, who cometh forth from the execution chamber. I have not slain a bull, which was the property of the god. What god? The god we just mentioned, Amenti. who has so far been Osiris. Let's keep going. Hymn to Osiris Kenti Amenti Un Nefer. Another name. To Osiris, Ani, whose word is truth, praiseth Osiris Kenti Amenti. Another name. Number 8. The fire cometh to thy Kai, O Osiris Kenti Amenti. Another name. The fire cometh to thy Ka, O Osiris, governor of those who are in Amenti. Well, that sounds like a place, just like the last time. Surely this is the halls of Amenti, right? Nope. Another name. How do we know this? Because it goes on to say, and the two sisters of Ra come likewise. Behold it, the fire, which we just referenced here. The fire cometh to thy Ka. The fire riseth in Abtu, O Osiris Kenti Amenti. It's referencing a name. Let's go to number 11. O Osiris Kenti Amenti. Let's go to number 12. O Osiris Kenti Amenti. Number 13, O Osiris Kenti Amenti. Number 14, your divine father Osiris Kenti Amenti. Number 15, opponent of Osiris Kenti Amenti. Number 16, through the union of the Ka of Osiris Kenti Amenti. Number 17, hail Osiris Kenti Amenti. Number 18, spirit soul to flourish like Osiris Kenti Amenti. Surely the final one, number 19, is going to tell me about the halls of Amenti. Let us see. No, and the dead shall see him in the form of Kenti Amenti. And that's it. Then it starts over. Adobe Acrobat has finished searching the document. No more matches were found. 19 mentions in the Book of the Dead of Amenti. None of them mention the halls of Amenti. But what about the other book? The Book of the Master of the Hidden Places. According to Billy Carson, this text confirms that the halls of Amenti are under the pyramids of Giza. They're the hidden chambers. Okay? Well, I found that text. The Book of the Masters of the Hidden Places. I found it. $25. What does the description say? The Book of the Master of the Hidden Places is a mystical and esoteric text written by W. Marsham Adams. The book delves into the secrets of the ancient Egyptian religion and its connections to the universe. The author explores the concept of the hidden places, which refers to the hidden knowledge and wisdom that lies, surely he's going to say, underneath the pyramids of Giza. No, that lies within each individual. Has nothing to do with a physical location. It has to do with inner work. Very interesting. And then we'll close out with, he briefly does mention the actual Emerald Tablet. A couple paragraphs. A book here of 200 pages, if we're not going to count the index, not count the the little intro pages and the preface and all that, not counting table of contents, all that. We'll just say, because it's 220, but let's take out 20 pages for the index and the table of contents and all that. 200 pages. One page is dedicated to the actual Emerald Tablet. And what's funny is that he says that he's going to expound on the Emerald Tablets, right? But what he does is he gives us the Emerald Tablet, the actual one that Hermes supposedly wrote, and he gives us the Sir Isaac Newton translation. Thank you. I'm glad he knows that Sir Isaac Newton translated it. Well, he was one of the translators. There was quite a few, but he was one of the popular translators. But he gives no commentary. He gives no elucidation. He just goes, oh, here's the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus as translated by Sir Isaac Newton. This is a different one than the one from Thoth, which is more original. Well, if it's more original, why don't we? Why are you and Doreal the only people talk? Like, stop it. Stop it. Going further, Billy Carson says, here's a link to the translation that you can study and that you can read. And do you want to know the website that he links to so you can read it? He links to this site, Biblioteca which is a conspiracy website. Okay? Even though it says it's a virtual library for new information and a new way of seeing and interpreting history, sciences, sociopolitics, myths, legends, archaeology, astronomy, that's just conspiracy theories. It's no different than what the people on YouTube are doing and sometimes on TikTok with all the conspiratorial nonsense. It's just that. It's no different than Coast to Coast AM, Veritas, Where Did the Road Go, and all those shows. No different than any of that. You can click around here and you'll see for yourself. All up here. Look. It's all conspiracy. The Pleiades area, the alien life area. They got the Galactic Federation, contact and contactees, galactic diplomacy, flying objects and art, extraterrestrial civilization, moon anomalies. Like, this is all the civilizations area. Is it real civilizations? Nope. It's Lemuria, Atlantis, the Dogon. Some of these are real, like the Navajo, the Hopi. There's Egypt here, but stop it. Like, what? Exopolitics, genetics, and I'm quite sure this is not real genetics. I'm sure it's some nonsense about breatharianism and all that junk. Indigo children. The maps. The maps that show you the ice wall and all that junk. Legends, myths, and prophecies. I don't even know what half this shit is. Alta process predictions, the Enuma Elish, I know what that is. The flood mystery, the deluge and all that. It's just nonsense. All this is nonsense. This is the website that he shows you to go and So this is in the chapter, it's chapter 2. The history of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, right? We're reading the Emerald we're not reading it, but Emerald Tablets of Thoth, right? So you go one page. It's not a new chapter, right? There's no new sub-chapters. This is the other page. No new sub-chapters, nothing like that, right? You flip the page again. No new chapter, right? We're still on chapter 2. No new sub-chapter. So then what is this website right here where my finger is? What does that say? Is that the Biblioteca? What's that right there? And what does that say? Dr. Michael also Maurice Doreal. It's like in 1925 can be found online here. Biblioteca Pleiades / and then the rest of it, right? / thought, net, thought, sp thought, Thoth, right? That's where we are. I mean, we're not on the Thoth one, but we're on the Biblioteca Pleiades. That's where we are. You can see right here where my mouse is. Biblioteca Pleiades. So, what now? Billy Carson? And this is just the beginning. I've got a whole video. It's probably going to be 1.5 hours, 2 hours long that I'm going to put up on my website where I'm going to blow through this entire thing. This is nonsense. Billy Carson is nonsense. So, all right. With that out of the way, let's move on to this, shall we? Tonight is the Hermeticism live stream where we talk about Hermeticism, legitimate Hermeticism, not this nonsense. Okay, we talk about actual Hermetics, not nonsense, right? Billy Carson, obviously, so when we were going through the Book of the Dead, right? Billy Carson claims to have read over 1,000 ancient texts. He says this a lot. If you watch, I mean, I promise you, if you watch at least 3 live streams where he's talking about like ancient things, like not aliens or whatever, but like ancient civilizations and all that, I promise you he'll mention it at least once. If you watch at least 3 of them, he will mention it at least once, that he's read over 1,000 ancient texts. And he mentions the Book of the Dead among them, the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And yet he must have not, because he didn't know that the Halls of Amenti, even though he says it in here, clearly he didn't read it because he didn't know that the Halls of Amenti are not mentioned in those texts, or in that text, right? Now, while I haven't read this text here, it clearly states that the author explores the concepts of the hidden places, which refer to the hidden knowledge and wisdom that lies within each individual. That directly contradicts Billy Carson when he says, where is it here? Certain hieroglyphic texts state that one chapter of the Book of the Master of the Hidden Places, that's this right here, right? The Book of the Master of the Hidden Places, okay, was still in existence during the reign of Hesepti about 4,266 BC. Egyptologists deemed it as the most ancient documentation of any kind known in the world. Consequently, the Book of the Dead, which we just read, that's the one where we did the Control F and we typed in Amenti, and there were 19 mentions of it, right? Is known to be the first secret manual of initiation. That's kind of true. Among its teachings, there are descriptions and procedures and passwords that have 2 specific levels of meaning, one spiritual, the other one physical. The hidden places mentioned in the aforementioned book are in reference to the underground chambers at the Giza complex, aka the Halls of Amenti. Well, this aforementioned book says that the hidden places refers to the hidden knowledge and wisdom that lies within each individual. And this aforementioned book, while it does mention the word Amenti, it does not mention it in the terms of the halls of Amenti or being some underground anything.